Hi, welcome back to Serger Tip Clips. Have you ever had to hem a long length of fabric, say a bedskirt or a valance, and you stand at your iron and you press it up once and then you press it again and get the exact width of the hem that you want, and that part of the sequence takes quite a bit of time? Well, today I'd like to show you a little attachment for your serger called a Downturn Feller, and that eliminates that whole step of standing at the iron and pressing. So let's talk about that a little bit. I have two different Downturn Fellers here. This one is the 1/4 inch feller, and this is the 1 inch. And for the baby lock, there is actually a third one, also a 5/8 inch one, and I do not have that one to show today. But I want to talk to you about what those two different dimensions mean. The 1/4 inch Downturn Feller has a 1/4 inch turn or a 1/4 inch width hem that will be formed with it. The 1 inch one is the same thing, but it creates a 1 inch hem. Before we go to the machine, I just want to show you part of the feller itself and where all the magic happens. And it's right in this part of the little shoot, the little curl of it. And when we go to the machine and I insert the fabric, I'll show you a little tip that I found works perfectly for getting a perfect hem with this feller. I'm set up for a narrow cover hem because we are doing a 1/4 inch turn on the fabric. This isn't an overlock technique, but you can set up for either a narrow cover hem or a wide one. If I were doing a 5/8 inch wide or 1 inch wide Downturn Feller technique, I might set up for the wide. But as I said, because this is a narrow turn, we're using the narrow cover hem. So let me show you how to set up the Downturn Feller on your machine. You can see the two screw holes on the cover hem table, and I have the little guide fixing screws. What I'm going to do is I am going to move the Downturn Feller onto the machine, and I am going to screw it into the cover hem table. Now, I'm not at all sure that this is positioned correctly, but just in case you think that you're doing anything wrong or that you're not becoming more proficient with the Downturn Feller, every time you use it, you're going to have to test and play around with moving it to the left or the right to get the right coverage for your hem. So don't feel as though you're not getting good at it or anything else. And what I usually do is I will take a piece of my actual project fabric, and you've heard me talk about making samples, and that's exactly what I do to position it. So I have a piece of this polka dot fabric, and I put a green thread in the machine just so that you can see it clearly. And what I'm doing is I am feeding it through, and you can see how it curls under as I'm feeding it under, and I'm just going to lift the toe of the foot to get it underneath and get it turned. And some people like to press a little bit of a hem for the first inch or so just to encourage the fabric to turn, but just to save a little bit of time on this video, I think I will just put it under. And again, this is the testing phase to see if my feller is positioned correctly or not. So I'm set up. I have my stitch length on about 2.5, and I am just going to stitch a few inches and then take a peek from the back of the foot. So I have my foot down, and I'll just start stitching. Now, what I wanted to show you, and I talked about where all the magic is right in here. So what I want to do is, as I said, this little curl on the shoot is where the magic is. The whole trick to using the Downturn Feller successfully is to keep the fabric right against the metal of that curl. And in order to do that, I gently guide it along with my left fingertips, but I angle the fabric slightly to the right to keep it so that you don't see any space between the metal of the curl and the fabric itself. So I'm going to do a few inches of this, and then I'm going to check it from the back of the foot to see if I'm positioned correctly. and if I have to move it. Okay, I can see a little bit now. And you can see I'm not catching the fabric at all. So which way do I have to move the Downturn Feller? I'm going to move it to the left to adjust it just a little bit more and see if I can't get that position. So I'm going to move it over, and it's just fractions of an inch that you have to move it just to test it in the beginning. And then I'm going to tighten up the screws again, and I'm going to stitch a few more inches and see if that's correct. I'll put my little pointer down and keep stitching. I'm still not there, so let me move it over a little bit more. I just loosened both of those screws. I'm going to move it over a little more, tighten up the screws again. Don't forget to tighten them, because if you don't, the whole feller will jiggle around. I have a feeling that this is going to be good. So let me just do a few more inches, and let's flip it. And I am catching it, but I think I'd like to even catch a little bit more. So I'm going to move it one more time. And again, nothing that I'm doing wrong. It's just a matter of getting the stitching perfect. And that's why if you cut a length of sample fabric, then you can get it to be perfect when you go on to your actual project. And this looks good. I am catching enough of the hem, and ideally we want most of the stitching to fall on the double layer, on the hem. So I might even move this over just a hair more to the left, and I'm going to do the opposite side just to test it. All right, I'm on the opposite side, and I've done a little more fine-tuning on my positioning. But one thing I wanted to mention is, don't forget, anytime you're in the cover chain stitch mode, you not only want to start with the fabric under the foot, but you want to start with it under your needles as well to prevent the machine from jamming. So I've already done a couple of inches, but I'm going to stitch along a little bit further and show you what an ideal turn and stitch looks like with the Downturn Feller. I'm just ever so slightly angling to the right, and you want to stitch at a moderate speed. You want to just take your time and have it come out nicely. But you can see how perfectly the fabric turns, and the majority of the stitch is on both layers of the hem. It's absolutely spot on perfect. The only difference is on my actual project, I don't think I'd have this bright green thread in. I'd have a better color, but I want you to be able to see it. So let me just finish this. And there you have a perfect hem. I have not touched it with the iron, and everything is pressed perfectly, or hemmed perfectly. And what I would do then is just give it a final press on the iron. Let's just take a close look at the final hem. You can see the two lines of stitching for the narrow cover hem on the right side. Those are your two needle threads. I have not touched the edge at all with the iron yet. And let's take a look at it from the other side. The raw edge is encased in the stitching. The majority of the stitching is right on the double layer of the hem, and the other needle thread is riding right along that. This was all done with the Downturn Feller. That's the little device that did all of the work for this. But you can see what a huge time saver this feller really is. Thanks for joining me today. In future upcoming tip clips, I'll be showing you some of the other fun attachments and specialty feet for your serger. There are so many great ones that you can use for all sorts of techniques. And as usual, whether it's with your sewing machine or serger, a specialty foot or attachment will always make you look like a better sewer than you might be. And that includes me too. And my Serger Essentials book is available both on my website, on Amazon, or from your favorite local dealer. Thanks for joining me, and see you again soon.